Hey everybody, as repotting season is just about upon us, and for me some seed starting season as well, I wanted to share what my plan was for the repotting side of what I'm going to do with regard to tools and soil and a couple other theories and approaches. So I'll start maybe with the tools, and before I jump in, let me just say, this is not an overview of the right way to do things according to some, universal truth. I have gone through the process of doing some research, figuring some stuff out, and I think I have my approach dialed in. I'm in a central Kentucky, so zone 6B, 7A, depending on the year. We get a lot of freeze thaw, but we also don't get terribly cold, brutal winters. We don't necessarily get, we get a lot of heat and humidity, but it's not like Texas or Florida. So anyway, I just thought I'd say your context always matters. And also this isn't the gospel of bonsai according to Brett. It's just what I'm trying at this point, and I anticipate changing in the future. So if I jump in with my tools, chopsticks are one of the things that's used. You use it to kind of work soil in around the root mass and get things in between. So the traditional material is bamboo. I have used some of the bamboo ones like from takeout food and stuff, and they're fine. They kind of break down and they're not necessarily terribly strong. I've also seen people selling like higher quality bamboo that seems to me expensive. And I'm not an overly cheap person, but I am a skeptical person sometimes. So what I'm trying to use is actually just hardwood. So I do some woodworking and other stuff, and I have lots of, pieces here, but I have, this is a piece of cherry. I used this all of last season to do a lot of chopsticking, and I take a carpenter's pencil and I sharpen it. To get this, I actually just took a board and split it, and wherever it's split naturally is kind of where it's the strongest, so it's pretty strong. But just in case you don't have access to hardwood, or in my case, if I want to do something that's a little more standardized, I got this dowel. And if you pay attention, this is oak. I believe it's red oak. Yeah, looks like red oak. And it is available from home stores. They're not that expensive. Just make sure they usually have poplar or pine dowels too. And then they have the oak. The oak is the hardwood. It's much harder and denser. And I'm going to try to make some chopsticks out of this and see if I like that. So I'll report back this time next year, or maybe in the middle of repotting season if it's going poorly, and figure that out. Couple other tools that I have. You don't need to get these. I love tools. I used to do woodwork, or I still do woodworking, and we put the patio in back here and a bunch of other landscaping. So I love tools. Got this little tiny broom. This is for when you're done repotting. You can kind of brush the soil around the edge in a really gentle way. I don't know if it's necessary, but I had to order and it wasn't that much money to add it. Made in Japan, V6, if that means anything to anyone. I mainly thought it was cute and cool, and I've seen people who use it that I trust. So maybe it's worth it. Another one here is this root saw thing. It's labeled as 194B, Root and Sod Cutter, Japan. This is made in Japan. It's a tool that's mainly used, I've heard it called a kama. I'm not sure if that's broadly known or marketed in wherever you're watching. But you use it to go around the edge of the pot to free up the roots and free up some of the soil mass to be able to get it out of the pot to put it back in, and then be able to work on the roots with your chopstick and all that kind of stuff. Cool. I think one more thing here. I've got these little cups that I got. Again, I don't sell anything. I don't have interest in selling just about anything. But these are really, actually I've used these already a number of times. It's nice because you can get that a little bit of soil, and you have this really nice precise spout to be able to kind of move it into a specific spot rather than, the big old trowel or whatever you're using. It's also nice for if I have a small amount of like a new plant or something, I want to change out the mix or whatever, you can use them as measuring cups too. But I got these, I believe I got these and these from the same spot. I can't remember exactly where, but they are available in lots of places online. So I think that gets us past the fun tool part and into the absolutely controversial soil media part. I say that partially jokingly, though I have seen quite a bit of passion and defensiveness and everything else around soil in the bonsai container. So I'm going to show you again, just to emphasize, this is what I'm going to do this year. We'll see how it goes. If it goes great, I'll let you know. If it goes poorly, I will let you know. So I took a picture. I'll insert a graphic here so you can see a little bit more closely, but I'll start down here at the bottom with this little pile of, these two little piles of white, and then this little brown stringy pile just above them. So that trio in different combinations is what I would call my development mix. Citing my sources, this is ripped straight out of Eric Schrader, Bonsai.com. I have so much respect for the work that he does. I have a bunch of his trees here, a bunch of his swag. He and one of the other people that I bought soil from, Jonas, put on the 2022 Pacific Bonsai Expo, which was, I wasn't able to go, but it looked really, really cool. But anyway, so what he uses, I think he says something like 20% cocoa coir, which is the brown stringy stuff here at the top, to what would be left? 80%, 20% cocoa coir to 80% perlite. So these two little white piles down here are perlite. You'll notice that there's two different sizes. The one on the right is the chunkier, coarser grade. This is number 3 perlite. And then on the left-hand side is the smaller grain perlite, which is it's just sold as kind of like coarse horticultural perlite. I get these in big 4 cubic foot, I think that's right, 4 cubic foot bags. And so my understanding, and I know this contradicts what some people have said and will say, my understanding and my reckoning with soil physics and everything else tells me that this larger particle is going to create and hold more airspace in the soil mix. The smaller one is going to create a smaller, more dense mix with smaller amounts of porosity, and therefore the small mix will keep something wetter. The large mix will generally keep something drier with perlite. That's my understanding. The cocoa coir itself is extremely hydrophilic. It soaks up and holds water really well, and it's the organic component in that mix. I personally am probably going to use 1 part cocoa coir to 1 part of the finer perlite to 1 part of the coarser perlite. It makes the math easier, which is a blessing at that time of year for me. It's a really busy time of year at work and everything else. But it also, I think it kind of allows for the benefits of each of those soil components, and I think also the perlite, the chunkier, coarser perlite, the number 3, it's not. Since it's a little bit of a barrier for roots to grow. If you're doing something like developing a root over rock or an exposed root Niagara kind of style tree, it forces the roots to grow around them, which is going to give some movement. Again, this is a little bit on the theoretical side, but I have used this for over a year now, and I really, really like the results that I've gotten from it. Yeah, so that's those 3. That's my development mix. Generally, I'm not going to use those inside of a bonsai container pretty much at all. So that leads us to the other 2/3 of the soil disc here. At about 9 o'clock from where you're sitting, this black stone is lava. So this is a volcanic product. We don't have it natively in Kentucky, so I bought this from Bonsai Jack was the company that I got it from. It has the benefit in the soil mix of mostly giving us a sense of or a higher level of like porosity and drainage. So one of the big problems in bonsai cultivation is that you want water to get to the roots, the tree to use it, and then you want that water to go away. And part of the calculus of all of that is how much water does the given tree use. Something like a maple uses a ton of water, whereas something like a Japanese white pine uses very little water. So we could theoretically go in and just spritz the white pine and drench the maple, or maybe time things appropriately. And we still need to do the timing right. But one of the ways that we control how much water stays inside that container after we water and everything drains away is through the mix that we choose. So at a lava rock, for me, the higher the lava, the drier the mix, basically. I'll come back to the proportions here in a second. The next one on around the clock here is pumice. Pumice is used in a whole lot of different applications. I think it's used even like an abrasive kind of pumice soap to get oil and stuff off your hands. It's used heavily by actually one of the most famous collectors in North America. Randy Knight uses this as part of his, or as the pure pumice as a recovery mix for some of the collected trees that he does. It holds a lot of water, but it also lets go of some of the water. It'll hold water until the plant needs it. So I think of it as kind of a water holding capacity plant, part of the mix, to kind of contrast with the lava a little bit. But again, it's going to be used in primarily things that are kind of need to dry out, but still need that on-demand water. So again, I'll come back to the proportions. Akadama, which is this one up here at the top, is the soil particle that I would say is most like soil in the ground. So it's a clay product that is mined from Japan and then sifted and filtered according to size. And it's probably the most famous Japanese bonsai soil particle, and maybe infamous. You can see the bag here of the imported stuff. But it is the main, in a traditional bonsai 3-part mix or a boon mix or whatever, it is the main organic matter portion. It's not that much organic matter, but it does have an organic matter portion. It's the thing that holds on to a lot of the nutrients that we put in there until they're available to the plant, provides that cation exchange capacity in case you're a plant nerd. And it also allows some of the roots to grow into it, and the role that it plays in that part of it, I think, is very poorly understood, but it seems to be a magical thing for creating porous roots inside of a bonsai mix. So those three, taken together in different combinations, will go into the bonsai pots that I'm going to be putting trees into or back into this spring. So in the case of like a deciduous tree, something that loses its leaves, uses a decent amount of water, I'm going to be using 100% Akadama, for instance. 100% Akadama because it stays wetter, it has more nutrients, it's able the plant is able to take that up. A tree that has a higher need for water can handle a mix that has a higher percentage of Akadama. I'll say, before I go on to my other proportions, this is out of things that I have learned from Ryan Neal at Bonsai Mirai. He and Eric and a couple of others I'll talk about in another video, to me, have been the main people that I've learned stuff from. Almost everything I know about developing trees, well, almost everything I know about the bonsai specific applications of developing trees, I've learned from Eric, I think, at Bonsai. And a lot of the more of the down the road development, down the road refinement of trees, I think I've learned so much from Ryan, as have a lot of people. Yeah. So anyway, so per Ryan's recommendation, what I'm going to do this year is 100% Akadama in my deciduous trees. I'll probably do 100% Akadama in a couple of my spruces, what Ryan would call elongating species, but they're not pines, they're not junipers, but they're a conifer. Anyway, that's what I'll do there. For all of my pines that I'm putting into bonsai containers, I think I'm going to do 1 part Akadama, 1 part pumice, 1 part lava. That allows more drainage, and it's going to stay less wet over time. And it'll just have, again, the pumice will have just some water there as the plant needs it, but not too much. Whereas the Akadama will stay pretty wet usually, and then needs to be let to dry out. The last soil particle I have over here is it's called the Aoki blend, AOKI, and I bought this along with some of the other stuff, and I wanted to try. I got it from the same place I got the Akadama from. I wanted to try and see how it goes. It's a blend. It has a little bit of like a different kind of pumice. It's essentially a pre-mixed blend with mostly Akadama. So we'll see if I like it. I'll probably use it in a couple of trees and report back, but I thought I'd throw it on this thing here just so you could see it. I got the pumice, the Akadama, and the Aoki I got from Jonas. I don't know how to say his last name. It could be Dupuis, it could be Dupwich, could be somewhere in between those two. But he operates a business called Bonsai Tonight. It has a cool blog. But he also, I think, is one of the primary importers of high quality Japanese soil media. I would call it media, Japanese media for bonsai. So Akadama particularly. can be kind of hard to come by. But so I got the pumice, the akadama, and the aoki blend from him, and I've had really great experiences. I think it's, for what it is, for how intensive of a product it is as far as getting it here, I think it seems pretty fairly priced, though it may make you cringe if you're not familiar with that kind of stuff. So the last little thing I have in here for repotting is in the middle here, which is this little bit of sphagnum moss. So this is like true sphagnum moss. Sometimes you'll see them sell sphagnum moss and it's just peat. I don't really know what the deal is with that, but this stuff is stringy and I'm going to use it as a top dressing. I've seen Ryan Neal do this at Bonsai Mirai, but I've also seen Eric do this. I've also seen Terry Erasmus, a South African bonsai practitioner. He's on YouTube. Terry, Terry, Erasmus, Erasmus. He does a lot of cool stuff, and it's interesting because their seasons are, because he's in the southern hemisphere, they're completely flipped. So basically, his July is our January with regard to potting seasons and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so those are the mixes that I'm going to do. I'll show you some of a process or my strategy on approaching some of these trees. Most of my stuff is still in development, and so the majority of what I'm going to do is going to be in that cocoa coir perlite mixture. But I do have quite a bit, or a handful of other trees that I'm going to be putting into or repotting into bonsai pots, which is fun. I didn't mention it, but this is how the cocoa coir comes, which is one of the advantages to using it, is it comes in these compacted bricks. So this is 5 kilograms, so like 15 pounds, 12, 15 pounds, something like that. And it is, when I put this into water, it will expand and it'll probably end up being several 5-gallon buckets full as far as volume goes. And so at that point, I'll have take a bucket of this, a bucket of pumice, a bucket of perlite small, a bucket of perlite large, mix those together and make 15 gallons of soil mix, which will be barely a start to what I'm going to be repotting this year, I think. Anyway, I thought this might be a helpful way of showing just my plans, because we're going to jump into repotting season before we know it. The holidays are almost over, and it'll be time to start thinking about that. I guess it's time to start thinking about it now, but so in the future episodes, if I reference back, you may come back and watch this. And if you're here from one of those videos, hello, thanks for coming back over. Well, take care. If you like this stuff, feel free to like and subscribe so you can get in on the action going forward. But really appreciate all the feedback and look forward to this 2024 bonsai season.